Elden Ring and Ghost of Tsushima, two of the most widely praised and popular games in the gaming industry. There's been a constant debate on which game is the best because one game was nominated for Game of the Year while the other one won the Game of the Year, which makes us wonder which one of them is actually better. In this video, we will answer that same exact question. Keep in mind that this comparison will be based on core gameplay elements, which means that we will not be making this comparison based on the graphics alone, but instead we will also be considering some other gameplay elements like combat, stealth, exploration, and many other elements which I gave you as an example. So these are Faxx speeders, and let's jump right into the video. Let us move to our first point, which is none other than the game's story. Both of the games have completely different story and narratives, which we will talk about now. Let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima first. This game was released in 2020 and was made by the developers Sucker Punch Productions. It focuses on the story of Jin Sakai, a samurai who leaves his code and begins to fight as the Ghost. The story may seem pretty basic, but once you go in depth, you will actually get to know how deep it is. The best thing about the game is how beautifully it's written. Every piece of dialogue is a cult classic and is still popular in the gaming fandom. Not only that, but you will sympathize with almost every character that you meet in the game. Everyone will have its own unique backstory, which will make you connected with them. This game takes a more realistic approach with some of the more fantasized elements, but the gameplay or story is still based on realism. Aside from a few things obviously which are okay, but most of the time it stays close to reality, which will make you believe that something like this actually happened. Moving on to the story of Elden Ring, as we all know this game is made by From Software, and as we all know story is not their best suit. Their games are mainly focused around combat and gameplay and the world design itself. The story still exists within the game, but it's not as crucial as Ghost of Tsushima's. It's basic and it's more fantasized, so it's not grounded to reality but is instead its own thing. The story is influenced by the choices that you make, which means that if you make good choices throughout the story, then the ending will be good, but if you don't, then it won't be good. It's that simple. The story is revealed to us by various NPC interactions, so it's not that great. And just like any other From Software game, the story is revealed to us in the beginning a bit and then we just do our own thing. So we can safely say that Ghost of Tsushima's story is definitely superior than Elden Ring's, so the point definitely goes to Ghost of Tsushima. Let's move on to our next major point, which is combat. The combat for Ghost of Tsushima is based on the stance system. There are 4 particular stances that you can use in the game. These are stone, water, wind, and moon. And each of them are effective against different enemy types. And you can not only use a specific stance, but you can also change them during combat. Which means that if you're fighting a particular enemy and that enemy is proving to be a challenge for you, then you can change your stance and it can be killed easily. In addition to that, you can also parry and dodge, which will open a window for the upcoming attacks, and dodging is also crucial to avoid heavy attacks. Basically a pretty similar system that we usually see in the games. But aside from this, there are also some special abilities that you can use, such as kunai throws, explosive arrows, and the powerful ghost stance. And in addition to that, you can also one-on-one duel against different samurais that you find in the world or different enemies. Elden Ring, on the other hand, is made by From Software. And when we usually think about the games made by From Software, we think about combat. Their games are not focused on story content as their main goal is to deliver the experience of a lifetime. So they usually focus on combat and gameplay, which is their strong suit. Which means that similar to their other games, Elden Ring is also based on the same formula. There's a stamina bar in the game and a plethora of weapons that you can choose. The weapon variety is vast in this game, which means that there are a lot of weapons that you can use to enhance your playstyle. As compared to Ghost of Tsushima, the game has a lot of mechanics like dodging and rolling, magic and ranged combat, along with a summoning mechanic which allows you to summon other players to fight alongside you in combat. The combat is more strategic, allowing the players to plan their attacks carefully instead of just mashing the buttons. and the game also offers deep customization of combat styles through weapon and skill choices, allowing for diverse playstyles, which means that this game features a sort of gradual learning curve where new mechanics are introduced as we progress further and we learn from them to kill the next enemy. So the combat is definitely better than Ghost of Tsushima, so the point goes to Elden Ring. Now let's move towards the final category of our comparison, which will be exploration, graphics, and world design. The exploration for Ghost of Tsushima is close to realism, as much of the things that we see in the game can be found in real life. The game is not focused on fantasy but instead stays close to reality as we discussed earlier. The game's art style may feel like it's ripped straight from the Japanese art, but at the same time it feels and looks realistic. The character models and animations are crafted to resemble real life, which further adds weight to the story as well. In addition to this, Ghost of Tsushima also features a dynamic weather system, which means that you can easily play the game in one of the 4 different weathers and enjoy its full experience. In addition to that, the game also features a snowy area, which is also quite accurate because Japan features multiple seasons because of its geographical location. All of the game takes place on Tsushima Island, which is full of creativity and amazing locations for us to explore. The game is a visual treat. It stays close to reality but straying off at the same time, and you won't even notice. And for players who want to experience the game in 4K resolution, they can easily take full advantage of their monitors, because the visuals are eye-catching. On the other hand, if we move towards Elden Ring, the game isn't based on realism as we discussed earlier. The game is based on fantasy, so you cannot expect any sort of realism in this game. The map of the game is also quite merged, where you will find different locations coexisting in the same place. You can find different creatures in different biomes, which feel different yet similar here and there in the map, which means that it's some sort of a void, where different locations are coexisting at the same time. There's no consistency in the map. But for a game which is made specifically for combat and gameplay, this map is also pretty amazing. The graphics of the game also mimic the same thing. They really immerse you in a world where creatures and stuff like that seems normal. So it's a pretty tough situation for me to divide the points because both of the games do absolutely best in delivering the experience that they aim to deliver. But as per my personal opinion, I would like to give this point to Ghost of Tsushima. There's a lot of depth in exploration and the map feels so vibrant. Even after beating the game, the atmosphere is the only thing that will make you stay in the game for a couple of hours. So this point goes to Ghost of Tsushima, although Elden Ring's map is also pretty beautiful, but not as compared to Ghost of Tsushima in my personal opinion. And I'm saying this again, it's my own personal opinion. Yours may vary and you may think differently than me. But for me, GOT's world is still the best. The world is tailored specifically to be realistic, but in the end it all depends upon your perspective. So based on all of the categories, Elden Ring loses to Ghost of Tsushima by 1 point. GOT was robbed of a Game of the Year award, but actually it deserved it. Game was in my opinion the best game of 2020. And it should have got the respect it deserves. Since this game is now available on a PC, a lot of the players actually played it and relived the story of Jin Sakai. So in my opinion, that game is definitely better than Elden Ring in terms of story, characters, exploration, and map. In terms of combat, Elden Ring definitely dominates. But this doesn't mean that I hate Elden Ring or that game isn't good enough. And I know most of you will say that I have a skill issue. Because of that, I made Elden Ring lose to Ghost of Tsushima. But that's not the case. I made this comparison based on actual proofs and actual things that I showed you in the video. But everybody has their own perspectives and views. So be sure to let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know in the comment section that do you like this type of videos? If you do, then we will continue to make more of these. Till then, we will see you again in our next project. So keep watching, keep enjoying, and goodbye.